The Detroit Pistons just made a shocking trade ahead of the February 5th deadline as they move out a young fan favorite in exchange for a draft pick and two veteran players, which signifies more moves are coming to this team that's holding down the top of the Eastern Conference. We're going to break down everything you need to know from this trade, the impact, and the players coming back, plus so much more in this episode, and you're not going to want to miss it. But before we hop into that, I just want to give you a huge shout out to everyone watching. This is the new channel. We're trying to reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. So if you're part of the 97.4% watching and you haven't hit the sub button yet, make sure to go and do it. It's completely free. Now with that, let's just dive straight into the report that just came out, breaking from Shams. Chicago, Minnesota, and Detroit have agreed on a multi-team deal that sends Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley to the Bulls in exchange for Kevin Huerter, Dario Saric to the Pistons, along with a first-round pick protected swap from Minnesota. Now, looking at this trade, the first thing I do want to dive into is, of course, what is coming out of this team going the other way, and that is Jaden Ivey. Now, with the Pistons, we know Jaden Ivey has not been what we were expecting going into the season, getting over his injuries. But the big thing with Jaden Ivey is falling out of the rotation for Jenkins, who has really stepped up not only when Cade has been out, but just as a backup guard for the team. Jaden Ivey this year, 8 points, 2 rebounds, and nearly 2 assists. Jaden Ivey is was one of my favorite players on this Pistons team for the past couple of seasons. We can see the numbers have dropped, and it kind of sucks that not only are you giving up on Jaden Ivey early and sending him to the Chicago Bulls, who you shouldn't even be doing deals with, but Jaden Ivey was a piece that I was hoping that maybe Detroit kept. See what he had, let him work, and see can he get back to what we knew Jaden Ivey was supposed to be over the next couple of seasons, or at least going into next year. We can see the shooting numbers. Of course, this was a big part. This is a team that needs three-point shooting. Jaden Ivey wasn't bringing it other than the corner where he was shooting 50%, but from the top 37, the other corner 35. Jaden Ivey was the casualty of this team trying to add more. And of course, like I said, Jenkins taking over that backup guard spot as he's emerged as a legitimate rotation piece, even though he's only on a two-way contract. But listen, this video is to dive into the trade. Now, looking at the pieces coming back, we do see Kevin Huerter and Dario Saric to the Pistons. Now, we're going to touch on this pick very soon, but looking at the two names that have joined this Pistons team, it gets interesting when you're diving into it. Kevin Huerter, 11 points, nearly 4 rebounds with nearly 3 assists. Kevin Huerter is shooting 31.4% from 3-point this year, so his numbers aren't even an upgrade on Jaden Ivey, which is surprising when looking at what the Pistons want to add. Yes, 67th percentile when it comes to point, 72nd percentile when it comes to assists. The big thing the Pistons have to add, something that they've been consistently looking at, is of course trying to get better shooting. Kevin Huerter, who was once looked at as one of the league's best shooters, of course could be having it down here. Maybe we don't see the playmaking in Chicago like we will see with Detroit. Of course, Cade Cunningham, the best playmaker in the NBA at the current moment. What we see with Kevin Huerter is a very interesting one. Listen, I understand if you don't want to pay Jaden Ivey, if you don't think he has a role here, but looking at his value, it feels like it could be a lot higher. Now, from the corners with Kevin Huerter, 41% and 38%. Yes, these are upgrades on Ivy, but when looking at the numbers from the top 29%, I guess, listen, Cade's going to shoot all his mid-ranges, stick Huerter into the corner, and he does fill in when you're looking at the lines of this team moving forward. Of course, Jaden Ivey will not be here, but you do have Kevin Huerter that can jump in. Caris LeVert is a name that hopefully they do move on from, but just looking at the depth chart, of course, Duncan Robinson, you'd have Kevin Huerter coming in immediately after, but it feels like one of those weird trades where you're still looking for more, especially with what you moved out. You got that pick swap that you can end up flipping and going into Dario Saric, which is a very interesting piece. Listen, Saric has not been playing very well or much this year, was just recently acquired from the Bulls. We can see that his offensive rating 17th percentile. We can see the defensive rating is at least 90, but the big thing with Dario Saric is you're looking at a player that is struggling quite a bit. 1 point per game, 9 percentile. We can see the 18th, the 17th, and 19th percentile. Of course, the minutes are low, but this does not account for the 1 point, 1 rebound, and half of assists that we do see Saric putting up this season. Of course, his field goal percentage, we can see the free throw from 33% does add, I guess, a bit of spacing, but you're making a trade of a young guy in Jaden Ivey to go out and acquire a guy shooting 33% and 31% from three. Listen, if you're going to package this, if you're getting two players, if you're going to use that first along with your other one to make this work, you have your trade exception. That starts to make sense. But when you're looking at these two players, listen, I want to be optimistic and say, hey, maybe Dario Saric comes in and plays a legitimate role and hits some threes. Maybe we see Kevin Huerter join this team and start shooting as well. The big thing with Dario Saric, of course, he's going to shoot great farther from the basket, but it doesn't feel right when looking at the rotations of this lineup, and that's what makes it feel like a trade has to be incoming at this point. Again, Dario Saric probably doesn't even crack this rotation at the current moment. You have your bigs, of course. The PF, Ron Holland could shoot better, yes, but does Dario Saric make a big difference? He could be the third or fourth depth option when you come to PF. I mean, looking at Javonte Green, a great piece. Yes, he can slide down, but I'd almost rather play the undersized wing at the 4 position, but it dives into the draft capital. And before we get too far, I just wanted you guys to go down right now in the comment. Did the Pistons give up too early on Jaden Ivey? Press Y for yes or N for no down in the comments, because I truly feel like they should have held on to him, or at least felt like they didn't get enough for a young guy. Yes, once again, is struggling, but it's one of those trades that maybe comes back to bite them in the butt, and sending them to Chicago, it sucks because Colby White and Josh Giddey, he's not going to touch the ball a lot, but it does feel like they did give up too early on Jaden Ivey. But now let's dive into what this means. The more moves coming, what this team is inspiring to do. We know atop of the Eastern Conference with multiple games in hands on the New York Knicks, the Boston Celtics, and the Toronto Raptors. We love to see these teams below Detroit basketball, but at the end of the day, looking at the draft capital of this team, there's a lot to work with. You have multiple second-round picks, a couple protected from Charlotte, 31 to 55, but the big thing with this Pistons team now is adding that extra first-round pick, or the swap, protected swap, with Minnesota does give them the option to go out, use this a part of a bigger picture. We know they've been linked to Bobby Portis and Michael Porter. There's a lot of names floating around, and maybe this 2026 first-round protected swap from Minnesota was the tipping piece on them making that deal. Looking at the rotation again, going out to get one of these names, Michael Porter joining this team would be the perfect fill-in on that. You have a cemented top roster. We know they don't want to move Tobias Harris, but if you can get an upgrade within this, if that's going out to get Bobby Portis to play the 4, if you're going out to pick up another name that maybe they go out, because we didn't see this trade coming, but it seems like the Pistons are actively looking at everything. But what is your thoughts on this trade? Does this make sense to you at all? Shams just coming out with this. It seems like they give up too early, but at the end of the day, maybe this is a grand scheme they're looking at more. Let me know all your thoughts down in the comments. But I've been your host, Mark Bye. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to leave us like and subscribe if you've made it this far, because we're going to give you daily updates. Plus, the deadline is just 2 days away, so it's going to get hectic.